Hey everybody, long time no see. It's Romania Black. And yeah, so thank you all so much for helping me to reach the milestone of 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is an astronomically crazy number to me. I know that for a lot of reactors it's like a drop in the bucket, but it really means a lot that you all have helped me to reach this milestone in me doing this for the last 4 years. It's kind of crazy that it's become kind of part of something that I get to do on the side that's not only fun, but that other people seem to somewhat enjoy. So I really appreciate that. And I said, if I reached 10,000, I would finish the rest of Hazbin Hotel week to week. And so here we are. So this whole month, we're going to be finishing it. Just worked out wonderfully that this month into next month, we're going to be finishing Hazbin Hotel season 1 with this episode leading up through episode 8. So that's really exciting. But thank you all so much. Last episode, episode 4, was my favorite episode of the season so far. I've always liked the character Angel Dust, and so seeing more with his character, seeing his struggles, seeing the toxicity around him, but then finding a fellow camaraderie in Husker was really, really exciting. And meanwhile, Alastor kind of knows some information behind the scenes of what's going on. There's still a lot of mystery afoot, especially in terms of how this is all going to get handled when the cat's eventually out of the bag, because we all know it's eventually going to get widespread. Like, this is hell that it's taking place in. They're not going to keep secrets. They're a bunch of gossipy wenches. They're going to get out and it's going to be crazy. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. But last episode was really, really good. I liked it. It had the most emotional stakes so far in the series, and it also showed that the series is capable of not only being a musical, but being a musical that has a lot of depth and emotion tied to it. So that's really exciting. So yeah, I definitely am happy I've reached this milestone, because I wanted to finish Hazbin Hotel, and I was like, man, doing this month to month has been hard because I want to have an excuse to watch the rest of it, but I just didn't have it, and now I do. So so yes, I'm super excited, but I hope you all are excited for episode 5 as I am, to see what all we're going to get this episode and to go to from there. So we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into episode 5 of Hazbin Hotel and see what we get. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Ooh, okay. We finally get to meet Lucifer, and interesting. I don't know. I really like Lucifer a lot, and I like his character a lot. When we watched the pilot, I was expecting Lucifer to be very intimidating and scary. He's not. I think the mother, Lilith, is going to be the scary one. I think she's going to be the one that's intimidating, that's super scary, and I'm all about that, right? I definitely think that Lucifer rides on his power because he's just strong. I don't think it's that he's emotionally or mentally strong. I think it's that he's kind of like Adam, which we'll talk about, because he's a fallen angel. He's a former angel. He's like Adam in a sense that he's maybe not the most charismatic. Well, he is charismatic, but he's not the most like mentally or like influential in terms of his personality, but the fact that he's just freaking strong because of his angelic power is why he is where he is. So that all makes sense. And plus, I think there's a lot with Lucifer in this series of how people just, they don't know a lot about him, so they just respect him out of fear, kind of like Alastor, which we'll talk about as well in this. But there's a lot of little tiny nitpicks in this episode that I want to like go through and talk with you all, but I am totally on board with Lucifer, if only for the fact that Charlie's entire character makes so much sense if she's a combination of her parents. There's a lot that I can see she draws from her father, a lot, and then there's a lot that I'm guessing she draws from her mother, who seems mildly terrifying, so we'll talk about that. But yeah, let's go through this. First of all, I want to say I love how unapologetic the show is in just Vaggie and Charlie being in a relationship. Like the fact that they share a bed together, they're clearly intimate with one another, the fact that they clearly love each other, like I do appreciate that. And I like that we have like the chest with the teeth at the end of the bed, and then like the blanket that has like the snakes and the apple themes. It goes along with the motif really well. But then we go downstairs and it's like, it's basically a nod to Philadelphia Story, or not Philadelphia Story, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. if you've ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, there's like an episode with the mailroom, and there's a character named Charlie who has like this big conspiracy board, and all of this is like a reference to that, right? Like there's one that says redemption on the wall, and there's a picture of angel dust. Then there's like pictures of, it says like, there's the thing that says hell, and then evidence, and there's rainbows and hearts. Like, it's great. So she's trying to find a way that she can convince heaven to stop the purge. We only have a couple months left before the angels come. And I like that we have the tower and everything, which is super cute that we see there. And she's like going through the little angel dust drawing is really cute. And then Charlie is like, what do we do? And Vaggie's like, well, we could ask your dad for some assistance. And then Charlie says that he let the extermination happen to begin with. So there's no way that he was going to help. She's like, they just had a meeting and he said, go ahead and kill everyone. I, on the one hand, think it's a little bit more complicated than that. And I think Vaggie knows it's a little bit more complicated than that. But her telling Charlie that without the fact that I think she's a former angel, and I think she is, and she doesn't want to out that knowledge, so she's just kind of like, eh. But I think that on the one hand there's more to it than him just saying, yeah, go ahead and kill everybody for the extermination. But I also think that Adam probably strong-armed his way into it and was like, here, Lucifer, we gave you this place, now we are gonna just exercise our authority over it. And Lucifer's like, well, what can I do? And maybe that's what led him and Lilith to split, is that she's like, you should be doing more, and he's like, but I don't know, and he kind of gave up. I feel like maybe that there's some linkage to that, possibly. But I like that. I like the Husker's like, so you have daddy issues. And she's like, no, I don't have daddy issues. Who did she have on the phone? Her whole thing on the phone there, she has Cyraeth. I don't know who Cyraeth is. And then she has dad. And then like egg boy 1, egg boy 2, egg boy 3. They're like, most of her contacts are all the eggs, which is kind of hilarious. And Husker's like, do you have daddy issues? I like Husker's coffee cup says fuck Mondays, which is hilarious. And she's like, no, I don't have daddy issues. She's like, after my mom and him split, he never wanted to see me. And he calls, but only if he's like bored or needs me to do something. And he's like, daddy issues. I'm fascinated by the idea that her and her mother, that her parents have split. I think that's interesting that her parents aren't together. He's still wearing the wedding ring. So clearly them splitting was not by his decision, but by Lilith's decision, which I think is fascinating that she chose to split. I can kind of see why. He has kind of a deadbeat dad. In my opinion, where we are at the series now, I think that he fell head over heels for her, and originally that they were in love, but she's upset because he's not doing more. He's just kind of coasting in hell as the ruler, being like, why do we have to do anything? They're all a bunch of sinners anyway. And the mom Charlie seems to have the mom's like conviction that she's inherited from Lilith. And Lilith's like, we should do something. And then her dad's like, no. And so that's maybe why they split. And the dad like wants to get back together with Lilith, is what I would guess. But Charlie seems to get a lot of her manicness and a lot of her comedy and a lot of her like humor from her dad, but she also seems to get a lot of her conviction and like power and composure from her mom. But the dad seems compassionate, but he also seems like he's kind of given up. He also seems a little bit like a deadbeat dad, which is interesting. And so I like that Nifty is like, I want to meet the ultimate bad boy. And it's like, is he a bad boy, or is he just kind of like, you know, a bro? So anyway, we have this image. We have the parents, and the mom is, of course, absolutely stunning, beautiful. Like, and then we have like, it looks like there's Charlie with a black streak in her hair, and like that looks upset. So I don't know if it's like Charlie on a bad hair day or something, but I like that we have baby Charlie, and the mom looks clearly, she clearly takes a bit from the mom. Yeah. Lucifer has kind of like a snake-like motif with him, and that he doesn't have like the nose or anything. So then, yeah, we come back to the dad, who has, I love his design. I love the white coat. Jeremy Jordan does the voice of Lucifer. And I want to see, is Jeremy Jordan, what else has he done? He's an actor and singer. His voice is incredible. He has an amazing voice. Oh, he was in Newsies. Okay. Joyful Noise, Smash. Of course, he's a Broadway singer. He's been in Tangled, the before-after show. Okay. Yeah, 1984. He was born an actor there. Okay. Yeah, understandably, he has an incredible voice. Oh, he's in the musical for The Great Gatsby, which is hilarious to me. Okay, cool. Yeah, his voice is absolutely incredible. Amazing voice. But I didn't understand the rubber duck motif at first. I didn't know why he was making all of these rubber ducks. He is suffering from depression. He's suffering from depression. And so now, okay, the Tinker Toy wall, I like that instead of a mirror, because that's like a vanity, right? There's a vanity in front of him. But instead of a mirror that would reflect and show him, he's taken the mirror out and just put like tinker tools, like saws and like an abacus and all that. Like he's taken and a wrench and a paintbrush. He's just taken the mirror off and put tools there. And it almost seems like he's horrifically depressed. And so he just keeps making these rubber ducks. And it's not helping matters any. It reminds me a lot, there's a scene in Parks and Recreation where Ben, the main character, he's going through like a bout of depression and he gets into like claymation, but it's awful. And his friends are like, you might be having depression. And he's like, no, I'm fine. Yeah, so Lucifer is going through depression. And that would also kind of explain why he's aloof, while he's not paying attention, why he's not listening to Charlie, why he's not been why he's been absent. Usually, you know, if people suffer from depression, they just kind of have a disinterest in things going on around them, and that can extend to family and friends. So it would make sense why he's not active in her life if he's struggling through depression. That makes a lot of sense. He's like, oh, it spits fire. And what is there? There's like a little doll being tortured, and there's like another image of them on the wall. There's a shot there of Lucifer, and there's another character with like black skin and like big white hair. Interesting. I like the elephant motif too, with like the cups and everything. I don't know who the black skinned demon is there. Interesting. But yeah. Basically Lilith is gorgeous from all the pictures of her, and Charlie is like a perfect mixture of her parents. Interesting. And of course, it seems like Lucifer is very sad that his daughter's distanced from him and his wife is distanced from him. But then he hears her calling, and he's like, oh, and he's like such a bro dad. He's like a bro dad. He's like, I don't know, he reminds me of if a guy became a dad like when he was really, really young, like 18 or 19. And so now he's like in his late 30s, and he's trying to be like, I'm a cool dad. But it's like, he's just a bro. Like, that's really what he comes across as. I do love all the apple motifs and like the angel art with the apples. That is pretty cool. But yeah, he tries to pass himself off as cool, and he ends up coming off really lame. And then Vaggie's like, come on, you can get help from her. And I can see where Charlie is frustrated, because she's like, I've told you all this about me before, Dad. Why aren't you listening? And he's just like, take that, depression. Don't know. I also like the rainbow rings. Those are all interesting too. But yeah, she's like, this is a big ask, but I need to speak to heaven. Whoever's above Adam, I need to go to the top. And he's like, nope. I think it's telling when Lucifer is like, no, you don't want to go to the top of heaven. You definitely don't want to do that. That's definitely not what you want to do. You don't want to go above Adam. That's a big no-no. That's not going to work out to your favor. And he says that because him and Lilith both know they were sent down there to hell to have this place. He's like, I know how that song and dance is going to go. I don't want a daughter of mine going up there. Interesting indeed. And she's like, this is important to me. And I love that Vaggie's just there supporting her, being like, it's okay to ask him for help. It's all right. And I like his phone case has like the snakes, but also the angel motif too. She's like, I need your help. And he's like, I don't know, Charlie. And she's like, just come see what I'm trying to do. And you'll see why it's a really good idea. And heaven is bound to agree if I get the chance to talk to them. And Lucifer's kind of like, no, that's not how this is going to work out. And he looks over at her and them. I feel like he's like, no, they kicked your mom and I out. They're not going to listen to you. But I don't know. What if, Lilith has been absent. We don't know where she is. What if she's up in heaven? What if Lilith is having an affair with Lucifer, with Adam or something? What if that's going down? We don't know. It seems like he definitely does not want her to go up there. But I don't know. Interesting. She's like, please, Dad. And he's like, oh, you're inviting me over. Oh, well, I could come there and show you what a cool dad I am. And then, yeah, he goes there and he's like, my daughter wants to see me. Take that, depression. Oh, so she's like, we have an hour to get ready. And Vaggie's like, let's clean this shit up. Meanwhile, Alastor comes over, and as they're making cookies and everything and cleaning up the place, Alastor notices the sign that says, "Welcome, Daddy." I like when you looked back later on, it said, "It's a boy." It just changed. And Alastor's like, So we find out the two little sheep demon were given to Charlie from her dad to watch over her, which is interesting indeed. There's all like the toys and everything, and she welcomes them in. Lucifer doesn't know who Alastor is, which is fascinating to me. I figured they would all know each other, but that is not the case. I love they have a "We Have Popsicles" like sign there. He's like, "It's so good to see you." And Alastor's like, "Who are you?" Of course, Alastor would be all about meeting Lucifer because Alastor wants to rise up the political ranks and wants to stay on top. So meeting at Charlie's dad, the king of hell, would be right up there with it. Although Husker says the line that somebody's yanking Alastor's chain, that somebody's controlling Alastor. And Alastor hates the concept of that being known. So is it true that somebody's controlling Alastor? Or is that the reason that Alastor's trying to get this power, is to upend whoever is holding his leash? Or is it the idea that Lucifer has more power than Alastor and that's a problem? Husker makes it sound like Alastor's being controlled by somebody, and that's why he's trying to get all this power to free that bond, but we'll see. So then, Kiki. I love the cat's name is Kiki. That's actively hilarious. And yeah, and he's like, "Oh, and Razzle and Dazzle, the Razzle Dazzle. Oh my God. Flotsam and Jetsam. Razzle Dazzle is the name of the little sheep demon." He's like, "You better be watching out for her." Interesting. Yeah. His like active like goofiness is very apparent with Charlie. He's like, "You better be watching out for her." Also, I love that he's a short king. I love that he's just like a shorter guy. That's really, really funny because Lilith seems super tall, but she might just be, average height. But then you see like the little part of the hotel that Alastor's included, which is the bar. And he's like, "What is this place?" And Alastor's like, "Oh, that's just me. I've done some renovations." And he's like, "Who are you?" And Alastor's like, "Well, hi, I'm the radio demon. Don't you know who this is?" And he's like, "Are you the bellhop?" Again, he keeps the ring on. He's like, "No, I'm the host of the hotel. Maybe you've heard of me from a radio broadcast." And he's like, "No." I like the idea that Alastor's motif is very 1920s. It's very like speakeasy. It's very like the radio era. He has a very distinct point in time that he's referencing. And when he sings, it has that kind of like jazzy, like vaudeville kind of quality. Even though Lucifer is from like ancient times, he very much invokes like the early 2000s Broadway number. I'm thinking of like Spring Awakening and all this when he starts singing in like Broadway ballads. It feels very contemporary. So it's fun when they have their duet and it's like the contemporary ballad singing male voice versus Alastor being kind of a little jazzy speakeasy tone. It conflicts in the best way possible. Their song was really, really fun together. And I like that the one's dressed in all red and one's in all white. Yeah. He's like, "Well, that's clever." He's like, "That's not very clever." And he's like, "Well, F you." I love the idea that Alastor, because again, Alastor is trying to get Charlie to, oh yeah, and they put up "It's a Boy" on the wall there. And there's Christmas decorations and there's like streamers, like it's all the different holidays. It's like every holiday they could find, they just put there. I like the idea that Alastor's been wanting Charlie to make a deal with him. And I feel like we've kind of gotten away from that motif because we've gotten away from that idea of Charlie making a deal with him. But in any case, Alastor wants to stay on Charlie's good side. And so he's like, "Hey, remember all the things that I've done for you? I'm more like your father than he is." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I like the idea of them having like a dad off to see who can be the better father figure. It also feels much better to me because even though everybody's like, "Oh, Alastor's asexual" and all of this, which I agree with, I know some people in the pilot back when it first aired were trying to ship Charlie and Alastor, and I was like, "Oh no, I don't get that vibe at all." The father dynamic of like a foster father for Charlie fits much better to me than a shipping dynamic. It works so much better. And I'm sure that some people after this episode are shipping Lucifer with Alastor. I don't know. Even if Alastor's asexual, you can still ship him with another character. It doesn't have to be a sexual relationship. I mean, look at Husker and Angel Dust, right? We kind of established that last week. But I feel as if with Lucifer's character, I'm kind of torn one of two ways. If Lucifer's whole character arc is him trying to get back with Lilith and trying to get back together with her, then I'm supportive because I feel like he likes Lilith. I feel he loves her and he wants to get back together with her. And that's kind of what the start of this series was about, was their love, you know, casting them away from heaven. So if that's the case, I'm kind of all for it. But if it turns out that Lilith has been cheating on him and has been cheating on him with Adam, for example, then Lucifer and Alastor, I'm all for them getting together in that case, right? It also makes sense now with the beginning of the series when they were like Lucifer offering the apple to Adam and Eve and all this. I could see Lucifer and Adam being bros together. They both have that same bro energy, except Adam's much more of an asshole than Lucifer is. But I could see them both being like, oh, bro, here's an apple. Oh, bro, thanks. And then Adam goes off with Eve and Lucifer goes off with Lilith. And so we go. So that's interesting. I'm going to be curious to see where we go with that. But I thought that the song between Lucifer and Alastor was a lot of fun. I thought it was super cute. And Alastor just trying to get on Charlie's good side and Lucifer being like, get away from her. Works really, really well. And them just kind of fighting over Charlie's affections. One thing I do really appreciate is that Vaggie comes over and Charlie's like, this is my girlfriend. And Lucifer's like, oh. And I feel like Alastor's like, how are you going to respond to this? Are you going to be upset by this? I'm not upset by this. Are you upset by this? And instead he's like, oh my God, oh my golly, you like girls. And then he's like, oh, so do I. We have so much in common. Which honestly, not a bad parental reaction, I guess. If your daughter came and told you that she likes girls and you were like, oh, me too, we have so much in common, you and I. Could be worse. Could be worse. I'm glad he's at least accepting. He doesn't like seem, you know, bothered by it, which is great. He's like, put her there, Maggie. He gets her name wrong, which is funny. And she's like, and he's like, she's so pretty. Yeah, he's like, oh, nice to meet you, sir. Yeah, I do like at least that Lucifer is totally not judgmental of Charlie for liking Vaggie and being in a relationship with her. That was nice to see. And then we meet everybody else. And Sir Pentious is trying to Sir Pentious is adorable. Sir Pentious is precious. He's trying to show off the cookies that he made, and it doesn't work. And then I like that, of course, Angel Dust says, hey, a short king. Like, saying what we all are thinking. Nifty is just like, Husker's the bartender, Nifty's the housekeeper. And bold move for Nifty to just, like, jump all over him. For Nifty to jump all over the king of hell and just be like, hi. And then her just staring, and she's like, I clean. And he's like, okay. Like, he's clearly into tall ladies. But then, of course, Alastor and stuff trying to casually just throw the chandelier on him and just being like, I love the dynamic between the two of them. And he's like, look at my daddy's glowing reviews on Yelp. So with the song, it shows him kind of as the puppet and him doing the different, like, all of the magic that he does as an angel. And he has the apple staff. And I like that he says, I usually charge a sacrificial lamb, which is like, oh my God. And they all have the hats. But he's like, but you get the family rate. And she's like, oh, thanks, Dad. And then we have Alastor pouring the wine. They both look so unhinged in this duet. And he's like, who needs a busboy when you have the chef? I love their song. The lyrics are great. And he has the cake with his head on it. So funny. I love their duet together. There's a lot of imagery to go through and a lot of references. But I like that Alastor butts in and has been like, you've been kind of like a deadbeat dad, and I've been here since day one. So, you know, your chum, your steadfast hotelier. Remember when I fixed that clog today? I like that Alastor's like pulling Nifty. I was like, remember when I did stuff for you just right now? He's like, oh, you sweet girl. I'm truly honored. We've built such a bond. And Lucifer's like, excuse me? You're like the child I wish I had. I care for you just like a daughter that I spawned. So Alastor has like an X on his forehead whenever he gets like really demonic. And a lot of his motifs involve X's and like side crosses, things like that, compasses. I'm very curious to see how that's going to play into this. And the whole thing with, Alastor playing the piano is great, but the devil went down to Georgia, the golden fiddle motif and reference was hilarious. And him trying to butt in the accordion, so funny. So Alastor's trying to suggest that he's like, well, now look at what I've done. He's like, I've you know, I've given you leadership, paths to success. I haven't been coddling you. I've been teaching you to stand on your own 2 feet. He's like, I've been doing lots of great parental things. And then Lucifer doesn't really have anything to challenge with that, except that he says, others say that in your needy hour, and he pulls out, he's like, there's no substitute for pure angelic power. So he shows off that he used to be an angel and he has like all the wings and everything. Who just happens to also be your blood. So he's like, you know, we're biological family. So, and then Alastor says, well, yeah, that's true, but sometimes parents are dead. So why don't we just, you know, and they're just about to like go into this idea of like Alastor's representing found family, in Lucifer's representing your biological family, and we're about to go like head on into this. And then who shows up? But he's like, your song, I started this, I'm singing it, I'll finish it. Like, they're both at each other's wits. And then Mimsy shows up. Like, this woman. Like, just shows up right as they're about to go into a head with one another. And then, yeah, she just pops in. I love that she just barges open the door. And then she's like, you know, you all were waiting for me. And everybody's like, who are you? I thought for a hot second this was the mom. And I was like, oh, God, surely not. But no. So Mimsy's an old friend of Alastor's. Again, going with the speakeasy motif. She, like, has a very, like, deranged Betty Boop vibe. But speaking of Great Gatsby, she reminds me of a character from The Great Gatsby. And when she makes the line about running over someone, that's something that her character that she's based off in The Great Gatsby actually does. So I'm like, that is a on the nose reference. Also, I like the bar says Beetlejuice. Hilarious. Hilarious. Has a Beetlejuice sign. I love it. It's interesting. He's like, oh, you're welcome here. Come on in. It seems like he's known her for a while, so he didn't think she was going to be that much of a threat. And she's like, oh, this one I used to frequent the club that I performed in. And he could toss back whiskey and do all this. And he's like, oh, she's like, watch it, tall, dark, and creepy. And then she's like, oh, he's here. But anyway, so Alastor goes off to go on the tour with Lucifer and them. And Husker knows that this woman is nothing but trouble. He's like, she's just drama. She's going to cause a lot of trouble. And she knows all of them, which is interesting. But, so Angel Dust is like, we don't know a lot about Alastor. What do you know? And she's like, oh, well, you know, I mean, there's not much to tell. He just, you know, started his way from the bottom and slowly killed all the demons and, like, made their screams aired over the radio waves and slowly made his presence known throughout all time and space. I mean, it's no big deal, but he's actually a big softie. And they're like, wait, what? Like, no way. Again, there's lots of motifs with the compass and the idea of the X's and all of that. And the idea that the radio is tied to his ability. You just pour him some jazz, put on some jazz and pour a couple fingers of rye, and he's a sweetheart. And they're like, I don't know if that's really the case. Meanwhile, as they're going through the hotel, and Lucifer seems like because Charlie's going on talking about how it's going to be chock full of residents, they're all going to be converted, and Lucifer's like, this isn't going to happen, none of this is going to work out, but he's trying to like humor her, and Vaggie sees the writing on the wall. As Alastor's falling behind them, that's when Husker checks in with him, and is like, she's nothing but drama, and we should get her out of here. And he's like, you've been gone for a while, and nobody knows why. And he's like, you may own my soul, but I'm not your pet. And Alastor's like, yeah, you are. You are my pet. And he's like, big talk for someone who's also on a leash. That line, though, where he's like, excuse me, what'd you say? So clearly Alastor takes offense with the idea that he's not in control of a situation and that there could be somebody controlling him, and said that he would gladly rip Husker apart if he ever says that again. So it's like, oh, okay. And he's like, no, understood. And he's like, lovely. So yeah, interesting. We don't know what Alastor's been doing while he's been away. We don't know who possibly he's being controlled by. It could be Lilith. Lilith could be telling Alastor what to do. We don't know. Lilith's whole motif supposedly is with music. Alastor deals with audio and radio waves. So it could be that Lilith is involved in what he's doing. And maybe that's why he's trying to get on Charlie's side more than Lucifer. I don't know. That'd be something interesting to look into later. But, I mean, Lucifer basically tells her, he's like, yeah, he's like, this hotel is not going to work. And he tries to be realistic. He's like, look, I love that you want to see the best in people. He's like, but it's hell. They're the worst. And he's like, I don't know how much you can realistically expect from them in heaven. And I think Lucifer's, not trying to be a Debbie Downer to her. But he's like, he's like, heaven is not what you think it is. And he's like, they have lots of rules and they're not open-minded as you'd hope. He's like, I feel like in some regards, Lucifer's like, I'm trying to set you up so that you're not disappointed when you go up there and realize they're not going to help. Which is what I think is going to happen. They're going to go up there and they're going to be like, ha, no, and then send her back down. Also, the fact that in the background here, there is that metallic thing with the big smile, which at first I thought was like Lucifer's way of traveling, but now with the loan sharks there, it kind of looks like a shark, so it could have been a sign all along that the loan sharks were going to pop up in the plot. Who knows? That could have very well been the case. But he's like, he's like, look at what happened. They got free will, and look what they did with it. And now they're here. It almost seems like, again, Lucifer was tasked with being in charge of these people, and he hates it. Him and Lilith are hating the idea. It's almost as if the angels punished Lucifer, being like, oh, you wanted people to have free will? Here's what happens when you give them free will. Now you take care of them. And he's like, what do I do about that? He's like, you put yourself on the line for people like that. I can definitely see him and Charlie's similarities and that they both wanted to help people and they had dreams. It's just like what happened was Lucifer's dream was stopped and horribly mangled, and so now he's disillusioned that it's possible, and Charlie still has this like vibrant hope in her. So I don't know, y'all. I don't know. Meanwhile, Mimsy gets these loan sharks here. Husker does not seem surprised at all by this, and Nifty and all them are like, well, shit, what do we do? And poor Pinchus like saves Nifty and helps her. Bless his heart, he's so sweet. Like, Pinchus is the one that he seems like he's actually maybe getting reformed being there, which he wasn't truly vile to begin with, but I feel like Pinchus is like actually actively doing things that are nicer than normal. So, and of course Lucifer's like, see, everybody just proves me wrong. He's like, no matter how well-intentioned you are, they just end up hurting others. But Pinchus saved Nifty. So then Alastor's like, please, I'm pissed off and I want to go take care of this. Yep. So yeah, he just basically goes in and massacres the place. And he's like, I will devour each and every one of you. And Charlie's like, see how horrible he is? Or Lucifer says that, and Charlie's like, now look, he's protecting this hotel. It may be a little bit more sadistic than we'd like, but he's doing it for me. I love that Angel Dust pulls out the popcorn and Husker's like, yes, give me some too. Like, they're just like, the drama, let's see this all unfold. They're like, we don't have any part in this. I really liked when Alastor's like, you need to leave. I like Alastor's like, I have a mission that I'm doing. You're in the way of it. Go away. So in some little way, shape, and form, it does seem like what Charlie is doing is slowly affecting all of them on a little bit by bit basis, even if they don't normally want to admit it. So, because Alastor's a lot more kosher about it than in the past, and him even leading Mimsy away, he doesn't invite her to stay. He's like, you need to leave. And Husker's like, hell yeah. So then Lucifer's like, I can't help you. And he's like, heaven doesn't listen to me. They won't listen to you. And she's like, well, I have to try. And he's like, oh, I do know. And he tries to have like the little ballad where he's like, I had this dream and none of them listened to me. And you see like, talks about having the dream there. And then what does he say there? He's like, my dreams were too hard to defend. And so it shows he's like, and in the end, he's like, I don't want to lose it all again. So, okay, we see all these angels here. Like, there's 6 of them there, and they all have different motifs and different styles, which is really interesting. And they're all pointing their spears at him, and now he's like, I don't want them to point their spears at you, which, imagine Vaggie also has a spear as a weapon, so imagine that. And then he's like, more than anything, he wants to shelter and adore her. Aww. And seeing little baby Charlie is so cute, right? And him there tinkering before he has his hat and stuff, and then he shows her like the little dove and it becomes like an angel. But then the mom comes and takes her, right, with the little crown. But I like that in the moment he like smiles at her and she like has this little look like she really adores him. Interesting. But he seems like he's constantly tinkering with things. Interesting indeed. So yeah, their little ballad is super cute, and he has like little angel wings where he can fly around. And then they do like the little Aladdin skirting across the gold and everything. It was sweet. It was cute. I like that on one side you had Vaggie when they land, and the other side's Alastor. Not fueling the shipping at all, I'm sure. I'm sure. And so he's like, fine, I'll get you a meeting. And Vaggie's like, well, you're going to have fun there. And she's like, we're both going to have fun because we're both going to go together. And she's like, oh, no. So yeah, I don't foresee the heaven meeting going well at all. I don't. I think that Lucifer is right and that they're not going to listen. They're going to get mad. I think they're going to out Vaggie as a former angel. I think that's going to happen. I am still curious about who possibly is controlling Alastor and his actions, and possibly why Alastor is doing the things that he's doing. I'm curious because I thought Alastor and Lucifer would know each other, but they didn't until today. So that's interesting. So yeah, I'm very curious what's going to be going down in the last 3 episodes. For sure. It seems like we have this meeting. It seems like next episode's going to be the meeting. It's all going to go awry, leading to episode 7 where shit goes down, leading to episode 8 where we resolve it somewhat. I don't think we're resolving it permanently because we have a season 2 that's in the works, but I feel like we're resolving it for a momentary point, right? So that'll be interesting. In the meantime, I'm curious to know your comments down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Hazbin Hotel. Bye. Hey.